Hello and welcome to Dragon's Book Review. Today we're going to be talking about Heidi by Joanna Spyri. I'll put the name up here for you just so you know how it's spelt. This is a book that I read as a child and still love reading to this day. It's one that I recommend reading because of how enjoyable it is to read. The story is one that you can easily get lost in and you become invested in Heidi's life. Well, almost immediately, really. How she's going to get on, how everything goes, people she meets. Mountain life kind of does sound interesting after reading Heidi. The version of the book that I have is accompanied by drawings throughout. These drawings are by Mosley. They're mostly in black and white, star of some of the characters in the relevant chapters. For example, Heidi, Uncle, people like that. There are 4 colour pictures within the book. One of Heidi right at the front of it. One of Uncle after Heidi leaves. One of what I would assume is the schoolhouse in Dorfley, the village not far from where Uncle lives. And the last picture is of Peter, Heidi and Clara on the mountain in front of the cabin with Little Swan, one of Uncle's goats. Some of these drawings take up a full page, and others only half a page. There are some little drawings of small items, like a jug and a bowl at the end of the chapters. I found this to be a nice little detail as it just adds more personality to the book. A spoiler warning now because I will be going into some of the plot and the characters. Within the first page, we are introduced to the charming scenery of the mountain and the place names. We're told there is a little town in a small hamlet called Dorfley, and that 2 figures walking up the mountain have just come to it. Dorfley is halfway up of a mountain. These 2 figures that we've been told are walking up the mountain are Heidi and Dete. For Dete, this is her hometown, so she's greeted by everyone there. They all ask her what she's going to do with Heidi, for they know of the child and her parents, so they know the history, they know where they're from, they know what happened. When Dete tells them, they berate her decision, because none of them look too favourably on Uncle, for reasons we come to learn throughout the book. Dete herself doesn't really like Uncle that much, but she has no choice but to leave Heidi with him now. And she says that her choice is one of little consequence because she's now found a good place for a job and refuses to give that up for the sake of caring for Heidi, because she has cared for Heidi all these years and refused that place once. And now she's bringing Heidi up to Uncle because he is her grandfather and now he must do something for the child. So once Dete leaves, Heidi loves it up there with her grandfather. She learns new things and the mountain air is healthy and keeps her strong. She adapted to life on the mountain very, very quickly, learning how her grandfather goes about his days and how he likes things. For the fact that Heidi is only 5 years old when she's left with her grandfather, she is clearly not stupid, as he himself points out. She's curious about how everything is done and why things are a certain way. This shows that she has not lost the curiosity that a normal child would have. Heidi wants to learn. She wants to learn everything about her grandfather's life up in the mountain, the goats, and just mountain life in general. She is so happy to have been left there. I know many 5-year-olds would not be too keen to go and live with someone that's practically a stranger to them, that they've never met before, and they'd wail and they'd cry. But Heidi does none of that. She is so happy to be in a new place because she is also given such freedom. She's allowed to go up the mountain with the goats, with Peter, and Uncle, or her grandfather. Uncle is her grandfather, but everybody calls him Uncle. So I'll either be switching between those 2 names, but when I'm saying her grandfather or Uncle, I mean the same person. So having been left up there with her grandfather, she is so happy. She adapts so quickly and doesn't wail, doesn't cry. She just gets on with it and learns. At one point, though, Heidi is taken away again by Date to go to Frankfurt. The reasoning for this is that Date found her a place as a companion to a gentleman's daughter. So, she goes up to get Heidi again. Heidi doesn't want to go. Heidi really does not want to go. She loves it up on the mountain with her grandfather, and she thinks that she can go for only a little bit and then come back because she doesn't want to leave. However, though, Heidi ends up going. But you have people on the mountain that really don't want Heidi to leave either. And they beg Date not to take her away because they've grown used to having her there and because of how kind she is. So, when she first goes to Frankfurt, Heidi hates it there. She's so homesick for the mountain and her grandfather. And this comes to a head when she sleepwalks around the house because she is told by Fraulein Rottenmeier, Fraulein Rottenmeier, that she is not to cry. She's not to show any of that and be sad because that would mean she's not a good companion for Clara. She must be happy. Fraulein Rottenmeier is a character anyway. Because when she first meets Heidi and asks her name, Heidi very much just answers Heidi. However, that's not a Christian name. You can't have been christened that, says Fraulein Rottenmeier. Date speaks up and claims that she was christened Adelaide after her sister, who is now dead. Oh, that's all she should be known as now in Frankfurt and in the gentleman's house. She doesn't respond to that name because she's never been called Adelaide in her life. She's always been called Heidi. Clara calls her Heidi, though everyone else will call her Adelaide. Again, she still doesn't respond to it because, well, she's not been called it. She eventually does get to go home to her grandfather in the mountain because she becomes sick in Frankfurt, and the doctor, prescribes a remedy for both her ill health and her homesickness. They are the same. She must go home to the mountain air. Now let's talk about how I felt about the characters within this book. So I'm going to list off the key characters within the book. So first we have Heidi, and there's Peter, Uncle or grandfather, grandmother, Clara, Fraulein Rottenmeier, and grandmama or Fraulein Sesemann. These are the key characters that appear more than once or more than a couple of times within a book. So the gentleman's house is Herr Sesemann, Fraulein Sesemann's son. Clara is his daughter. So first of all, I liked the characters of Heidi and the grandfather, so Uncle. Heidi appealed to me because she was adventurous and curious. She wanted to learn. She has a zest for life, really, and a good mind on her. Even at 5, she has a clear head. She speaks as she thinks. Though that might be odd to somebody, but that's just Heidi. The grandfather appealed to me because he reminded me much of one of my own. My mum's dad. He was a lovely man. Very loving, very, very caring. He sounded gruff at times, but he was a softie at heart. And that's exactly what I found Uncle to be. When you read the book, when you get into his character, even though you hear stories about him, it's not the same. You know what he's done, you know the stories connected to him, but meeting him, getting to know him, it's different. So that bit made me a little nostalgic reading his character again, and it made me very much miss my granddad. Because even in appearance, big bushy beard, like severe, like kind of frowny expression at times, thick eyebrows, reminded me of my own granddad. it brought back memories that I thought were gone, which I'm glad aren't. So then, moving on to the character of Daisy. I hated her character. I still do. She gave Heidi to Uncle because she could not be bothered to take Heidi to the new job placement with her, and then came to take the child back again when she, unbeknownst to Uncle, found Heidi a good place to go, which turned out not to be a very good place because the best place for Heidi was on the mountain with Uncle. So I hated her for that because she made the decision to leave her up there, and then she makes the decision to take her away again without consideration for anyone else's feelings but her own. There were some characters who I felt didn't do anything wrong. They were just caught up in everything else. One such of these is Clara. She's a lovely person who gets swept up in what other characters want. She rarely does anything selfishly, except maybe wanting to keep Heidi around her. That is her main selfishness point. But even then, she has to give Heidi up and promises to visit. The reason that Heidi went as a companion to Clara in the first place is that Clara is chairbound. She cannot walk. So, doesn't go out to make friends, doesn't go with anybody. She stays at home, so she must be bored out of her skull. So Heidi is found as a companion to her. But then, circumstances arise within the going up the mountain that force Clara to try and walk, which goes quite well, to be honest with you. But she even up in the mountain, she gets caught up in other people, like Peter. Peter hates Clara for the simple fact of when Clara's there, Heidi won't go up the mountain with him anymore, and it's not fair. It's not fair that that happens to Clara because she does nothing wrong. The other characters are nice too. They complete the story, and you cannot have the story without them. Not the whole story anyway. One such character is, ironically, Fraulein Rottenmeier. She is, in my mind, just a little bit better than Daisy, as she was trying to change Heidi beyond what Heidi herself was meant to be. Though I don't think she did it for any malicious reason. It's just that Heidi wasn't what she expected, and thus, she had to change. But you can't change people from who they are meant to be. So, that's why she's better than Daisy. She seems to care just that little bit more. The other characters, Peter and grandmother. Grandmother is Peter's grandmother. She's blind completely. So once Heidi learns to read, ironically in Frankfurt, she reads hymns for the grandmother from the book. So it's so nice. Grandmother's a kind soul, and she gets such a lovely bed in the end, and she sits in a soft thick coverlet so that she won't freeze in the winters, and Uncle helps fix up the house and do repairs. Heidi manages to bring the unlikeliest of people together, and it just makes the story so enjoyable. Grandmama is also a character in herself. She doesn't do things by half. She gives Heidi picture books, and as soon as she gives her picture books, Heidi learns to read because Heidi was having trouble with the teacher. Heidi was getting things mixed up. She wasn't doing it very well. Then grandmother helps. She explains it, and then Heidi manages to get a little bit of a better grasp on things. And Heidi's the one that actually teaches Peter to read, because Peter can't read, and he was doing bad in school in Dorfley, and he stuns the teacher because it was just we must skip over Peter again, and then he reads a paragraph perfectly. So it's just amazing. So then some other little things. Heidi has not gone to school. at all in 5 years. Until she comes back from Frankfurt. She then attends the school in Dorfli in the winters. So Uncle and Heidi live up on the mountain in the summers, but then as soon as it is winter, they take up a house in Dorfli, and then she'll go to school during the winter. It's great, and it makes all the more change. Heidi begins to learn more, and she loves it. She absolutely adores the school. So, to sum up the whole book, I think it is one classic book that people have to read. It's not the classics like Austen's work, but it is a nice story that people would enjoy, that's worth the read. I know it doesn't seem like it, or it might not seem like it to some people, but it is definitely worth the read, because then you get a wide perspective. And like I said, mountain life, little village life, seems so appealing after hearing about all of that, after looking at the world through Heidi's eyes, the eyes of a curious, adventurous child that just wants to learn. Seeing Heidi's perspective, seeing the perspective even of Uncle, that of Peter, Grandmama, Clara. All these tiny little stories that have been wound together by Heidi. As I said, she brings the unlikeliest of people together. For example, people don't get on with Uncle very well until Heidi comes. And then people don't learn to fear him as much. So, just to wrap this up to a close, give it a go. If you don't like it, you don't like it by the end. That's fine. At least you'll have given it a go. And that, my dear beans, is worth more than anything. That you just give something a go. If you're not sure of it, give it a go anyway. So then, my lovely beans, if you like what you've heard today and seen, please consider subscribing to our channel. Leave a comment in the comment section down below. If you want me to read and review more books, please leave a comment down in the comments and let me know. I'll do my best to give it a go. And hopefully you'll see the rewards on the channel. But in the meantime, please consider subscribing to our Patreon, becoming one of our lovely beans today. If, however, that is too expensive for you at this time, please consider a one-up donation on our Ko-fi to help poor T-Wench today, even though she is not here within this review. You can still help. So that's all for now. This is my first recording. Yes, this is my first recording, but this is also my first proper edit by myself. So I kind of cut off at the end. So thank you very much, you lovely beans, for supporting me, and dragging out.